Hello, it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and today I'm designing a layout for Bramble Fox using the new wildlife collection. It's a fabulous collection, lots of fun to be had with this one. You get paper snips, there are obviously loads and loads of cute perspectives and titles with this one, and there's also 4 stencils in the collection as well, so loads of fun. And I'm going to be using the monkey business title today and a couple of the really cute little monkeys with their bananas. And I'm scrapping a couple of photos of my little one on a climbing frame at the zoo recently, and I thought the monkey business title worked really well for this. It was like a rope climbing frame, and it really reminded me of the ropes you get in like monkey enclosures at the zoo, and he is a bit of a cheeky monkey, so I thought that title worked really nicely with these photos. And just as an added bonus, the ropes on that climbing frame match the colour of that title perspective perfectly as well, so it was almost like it was meant to be. So I've cut those 2 photos as circles, and I'm going to have them layered in the middle like so, with my title perspective and a couple of the monkeys arranged around it. And I had this patterned paper in my collection. It's by Vicky Boutin's, it's from her Fernwood collection, and again it matches the colour of that title perspective really nicely, but it's like a grid, or like it reminds me of a class register at school, so I didn't want to use the whole thing as a background. Not only that, I get really scared of using pattern paper as a background. It really intimidates me. I like to have lots of white space, but I wanted some of that paper showing, so I decided to cut a couple of corners, or tear a couple of corners off of my white cardstock, and then use a paintbrush just to roll the edges back a bit, and that reveals some of that lovely kind of, it's like a sagey colour underneath. And then that gives me a couple more areas that I can embellish as well, because it's not too busy a patterned paper. So I've added a couple of little ephemera pieces from a new Simple Stories collection. I think it's called Go Wild or Be Wild or something like that. So I've added a monkey obviously up the top, and then a little koala at the bottom. There's no koalas in my photos, and there wasn't any at the zoo, but I just felt it went really nicely with my colour scheme and sort of the theme of climbing. And I've brought in a couple of pops of red there as well. So I've got that Stay Wild at the bottom. So I'm going to add a little tiny red flower, just die cut up at the top, with my monkey, just to extend the red up to there a little bit too. And I've also pulled out some leaf die cuts from that collection, just to arrange around my photos and my title in the centre. And then you'll notice the 2 corners, I've got some yellow strips there. Those are cut from the new paper snips that come with the wildlife collection. So I've got, I think one says monkey see, monkey do, and the other one says go wild. So I thought they were quite fitting. So I've popped those in those corners. And then I've added a white border around my photo now, just to help them stand out from the background and pop a little bit. And then a layer of patterned paper. And again, I think this is from the Fernwood collection. It's just like a nice brown colour. I thought it's like almost like a neutrally earth kind of coloured layout. So I thought the brown would work really nicely. So I'm kind of happy where things are going to go now, so I'm going to get things stuck down. So I'm using double-sided tape to stick that white cardstock to the patterned paper. Now normally I would trim the centre of that patterned paper out so as not to waste it, but it's quite a thin paper, so I decided just to leave it be. It was a lot easier as well, but it just makes that background a little bit sturdier. So I've stuck that down flat, and then everything else on the centre I'm going to raise up with some foam to bring in some dimension. So you can see here I've just cut some craft foam to go behind my photos. This is just really cheap foam. I used to buy it in the range. It's adhesive on one side, so really fun and easy to work with, and it's not time consuming at all. But the range seemed to have stopped doing it where I live, so I got this last lot from Amazon, but it's really cheap. I think I got 50 sheets of A4 or something, but it's just so quick and easy to use with it being adhesive on one side, and then you can just add some glue or double-sided tape to the other side and you're done. I wanted to add a little bit of colour to my background, so I've pulled out the stencil that comes with the Simple Stories collection. It's kind of like a netting or a rope, and I thought it worked well with the photos obviously of my little boy climbing a rope climbing frame. and I've got a Distress Oxide here in Fossilized Amber, and I was trying to match the colour of the yellow paper snips and the bananas that I'm including on the layout. And my little boy's got a pale yellow t-shirt on in the photo, so I wanted to draw in a little bit more yellow. So I'm using Fossilized Amber, and I'm just adding a tiny little bit of detail around the edges, not much at all, and I'm not pressing very dark. I don't want it to be too bold, but it just adds a little bit of background detail. And then once I'm happy with that, I'm going to go ahead and get my photos and leaves stuck in place. So I'm curling the edges of these leaves up with my fingers, just to give them a little bit of dimension and make them look a little bit realistic. Leaves aren't generally flat in real life, are they? They've got a little bit of a curve to them. So I try and always do that with leaves and florals on my layouts. I'm just going to place them sort of around my title. I don't want them to go completely under my title, because then you won't be able to read what it says as easily. So I'm just being a bit strategic where I place them. And obviously I've got that really cute little monkey going to be hanging down from the bottom of my title with his bananas. I just love how cute they look. They are so cute with their little etched faces as well. I think it's genius how Morag's done these. So very, very cute. Definitely would recommend getting these monkeys. And they'd work for anything. Zoo layouts, children layouts. You know, if your husband's a bit of a cheeky monkey, you could even use them for that. But they could be used for anything, or just as a really cute embellishment on any layout really. So I definitely think I'm going to be needing some more of those. With my title, I'm just having to add a little bit of craft foam just behind some of the letters, because I want the beginning of it to overlap my photo, which is raised up on foam obviously. So I just need to add some foam behind it so that it sits flat on my background, and I get a bit of contact between the perspective and my white background so that it sticks and it's not going to fall off at a later date. So just cut a really thin strip and just adding it in a few spots just behind the letters. And I always pick where the letters are at their widest point, so the thicker bits. So it's just easier to sit the craft foam behind those. And then added some glossy accents, and that is my title stuck in place. So I'm just going to work my way around all the other little bits. Some things I'm going to raise up on foam for a bit of dimension so that I can layer things on top of each other, and other things I'll lay flat. Just for a bit of variation. Don't like to have everything raised up, and I don't like to have everything flat. I like to have a little bit of both. Just makes things look a little bit more interesting. It almost looks like you're looking into like one of those magic eyes. Remember those you used to get in the newspaper when I was a kid? And you'd have to start it close to your face and then move it away. But I always find when you've got things with foam, it makes it look a bit more 3D. It always reminds me of those magic eyes. Bit of a weird one there for you, but that's what it reminds me of. That's most things in place now. I decided I wanted a little bit more red in the top corner to balance out that little banner I've got at the bottom, and I found a perfect paper snip for that, and it says wild and free, which I thought was really nice, and it's a perfect red colour. And I'm using one of the Bramble Fox epoxy stickers for this, so I've cut the paper snip out, and then I've placed the epoxy dome sticker on top of it, and then I was just trimming the edge. It was slightly bigger than the epoxy sticker, so I've just trimmed that off. If you use a 1-inch circle punch to punch them out, it would be the perfect size, but I couldn't be bothered to get up and get my punch, if I'm honest. So I just hand cut it out today, but it did mean it was slightly bigger, but very easily trimmed. And now that looks like a lovely epoxy flare up the top. It's got lovely texture, gives it a bit of a shine as well. So I've popped that up at the top, and I've stuck that down flat because it's already got a bit of dimension from that dome. And I'm just going to finish my layout off with some ink splatters now, just around the centre part of my design on the white. So I'm using the same Fossilized Amber Distress Oxide to match those yellow bananas and my paper snips. And I'm also going to try and replicate that kind of muted sage green colour that's in the layout. And I've mixed 2 distress inks together for that. So I've got pine needles and sage green, I think it's called sage, bundled sage, that's it. So bundled sage with a tiny bit of pine needles mixed in, and matched that colour of that perspective perfectly. And there we go, that's me finished. So I've got some close-ups coming up for you. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this process and it's given you some inspiration. If this collection hasn't been uploaded to the website yet, it will be very shortly, so do keep your eye out for it. And if you buy the stencil set, I think you can buy them individually. There's 3 available, but if you buy the set, you get an extra one as well. You get a cheater print, so you get 4 stencils in that. So well worth having a look at this collection. I'll pop some links in the description box below for you to the Bramble Fox website and also to our Bramble Fox Friends Facebook group. So if you're not a member, do head on over and join us. We have loads of fun and inspiration in the group. Also a monthly challenge where you can win a gift card to the store, so well worth being a member. But thanks again for joining me. I'll leave you with the last few close-ups and I'll see you next time.